So I don't know where this whole not questioning God thing comes in with a lot of Christian people who say that. I personally think you should question God. You should question the practices that you do as a Christian. Like, you should question, why do you have to read the Bible? And who was the Bible written for? Is it written for us or to us? You should question, why do I pray? Why do I become serious all of a sudden when I pray? Why do I close my eyes when I pray? I'm just like saying things that come to my mind right away. But I think we should question, because questions show that we actually care. Because if you don't care about something, you don't question those things, you just let them be. And I feel like many times we as Christians, or people who claim to be Christians, we just do things for the sake of doing things, and we don't even know why we're doing those things. And when we do come to a point where we have questions, we feel like, or many people feel like, they cannot ask those questions because that will be like showing that you don't trust God or you don't have faith. No, I don't think that is what it is. Like, your questions with the genuine intention of actually wanting to know and grow, and not just questions for the sake of asking questions, or to, like, put somebody else down. Like, I think the intention of the question matters a lot, but that should not take away from the practice of asking questions. That's just how I see it. I know that not everybody is like me. Some people are okay with just doing whatever without knowing anything, and if that works for you, that works for you. I don't know what to say. But if you do have questions like me, I think you should ask questions. I don't think God is offended with our questions.
Well, I love my parents.
Yes.
And I grew up with a lot of born-again Christian beliefs. And so I had people around me, like-minded people like that. And I would say that it was a bit of a bubble. Although I don't regret or think I could change anything.
I want you to feel what you're saying.
Okay. I don't regret or think I could change anything, because I know I can't. But it wasn't always that easy, because, it was very strict, and I was a very curious person. And the curiosity sometimes it wasn't allowed, because you had to have faith. So it was hard for me sometimes to be curious about what was going on in the rest of the world. My parents I love, and they did the best job.
And we're not going to pathologize your parents by no means.
No.
But we want to deepen into Catherine and Catherine's experience in growing up in that family, in that environment.
It was like, just do as I say, no ifs, ands, or buts. And it was like, it was based on my religious upbringing. And I just always, like, I have so many questions. I ask all the questions in the world, and all the questions in the world have gotten me to where I'm at now.
So it has been, or I feel like maybe even today, there's so many people who claim to be Christian who just follow in that same category of, like, just do what I say and no ifs, ands, or buts, like what we heard in the video, right? And it's sad that that is how many Christians live. And when you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for everything. And I feel like that's what a lot of people who don't ask questions, they just fall for anything and everything that people just do. Like, if a whole bunch of people are doing it, they'll just go with it. Like, they don't even know why they're going with it. So that's why I feel like it's important to ask questions.
I had a lot of questions as a kid, and I don't think my parents were equipped with the answers. And so that's like one of the things that as a parent now, that I really want to be able to do with my son when he asks questions. And I don't want to just be like, oh, well, we just believe, or it's just like, that's what faith is. You just got to believe. And it's like, yeah, but I have legit questions, like whether it's, elementary school level of dinosaur questions to like what the resurrection was, and
Yeah.
and they didn't really have that. So I did go to Bible studies as like a child. Like I remember until my early teens, I had read the Bible twice, but I read it not really like understanding, or I just read words, front to
Right.
back. And so, yeah, sorry if I jump around. You can always stop me.
That's okay.
But I ended up, going astray in a way. Like
I've come across a lot of people who take questions as like rebelliousness, which is not. I mean, it could be rebelliousness in a way, but if you ask it from that place. But like for me, even when I was in theological seminary, which I did for 5 years, I used to ask questions in my seminary, and my professors would be like, "Oh, you're just being disruptive, or you're being rebellious, or if you have a problem with what we're teaching, go talk to the director of the college," and stuff like that. So, like questions should be welcomed, I think. And I think God is never upset with questions. And sometimes when you ask questions, you might not get the answers that you're thinking of. You might get more questions from God. And that you see that a lot happen even in the life of Jesus, when many people would come, especially the religious leaders, when they would come and ask him questions, he would ask them questions back, and those questions would reveal the intentions of their heart. And sometimes maybe we need to ask questions not just to get answers, but so that we can understand the inner intentions of our own hearts, and to be able to realign our intentions with God's intentions. One of my favorite things, or people that I got to learn a lot from about this thing about questions, is Job. Many people just write off Job with the first chapter where he says like God gives and takes away, which is a very bad description of who God is, I think, because Job was just basically speaking out of the pain that he was in. It's not a correct description of who God is. But if you actually take time to read more than the first chapter, or a first or second chapter, where he says, God gives and takes away and all that stuff, if you keep reading them, there's so many questions that Job asks. Job 3:11, why did I not perish at birth? Like basically Job is questioning God's purpose of his life on earth. Like he's just saying like, God, you put me on this earth, why did I not just die then? Like why did you even have to bring me to life? And yes, he's doing all this because of his pain, but he's not holding back from asking questions. And there are other things like Job 7:17. What is mankind that you make so much of them? Basically he's asking God, like, why do you think we can go through all these things? Okay, verse 20 of Job 7. If I have sinned, what have I done to you? Why had you made me your target? Like, he is literally questioning God, saying like, what sin have I committed? Yes, nobody's perfect. I'm sure Job knows that, but he also knows that he didn't do anything wrong to receive what he did, and he is like questioning that thing. And like that's something that I related a lot with Job, is because he was questioning all these things, and even his friends who were supposed to like comfort him, they would keep telling him to not question God, and you did something wrong. And I feel like that's what a lot of Christian people do, is like the ones who are actually questioning, like Job. Okay, see, go on to Job chapter 10. Does it please you to oppress me, to spurn the work of your hand? Like he's literally asking God, like, are you really like that sadistic that you would oppress me and are happy because of this? Um, okay, so it's like, ooh, this one, Job chapter 10, verse 4, I think. Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as mortals see? Like he's literally saying, God, do you not even see what's happening? And all right, there's so much more questions. Like if you keep reading, I'm trying to pick from all the questions, which is like good because I don't want to go through so many things. But the thing is, he asks all these questions, right? And God is not offended with all these questions. The friends are trying to convince him not to ask these questions and to examine him, saying that, oh, you did something wrong and that's why this happened. And many times I feel like that's what a lot of Christian people think. Like bad things happen because you did something wrong. Like what do you think God is? Like like you do bad. That's actually a very Hindu philosophy. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. That's karma. That's not who God is, as I believe in Christ. Going back to Job, he questions all these things and his friends don't get him. And then towards the end of it, God comes onto the scene, like towards I think chapter 40-ish. When God starts to speak, God says, hey, you asked me all these questions, now let me ask you a bunch of questions. And God goes on to ask a bunch of questions. And many times when we feel like we ask questions, we want answers, but God wants to ask some more questions. And it's good because once God asks all these questions, Job comes to a point, man, I forgot I should have gotten that reference, but Job comes to a point where he says, okay, I have spoken things that I did not understand. I knew about you, but now I actually see you. And I think that's the place that all our questions lead us to. Our questions lead us to not just getting all the answers, but seeing God for who He truly is. And when we do that, all the questions that we have, they somehow just don't matter anymore. You know? So ask questions, let God ask you questions, let God realign things in our hearts with the questions that we have. And maybe in the process you might get answers, and that's wonderful if you do. And if you don't, I hope and pray that you will actually see God for who He truly is and know that He's not offended with your questions. I think He welcomes your questions, and it's good that you can ask those questions with the people in your life. Hopefully you do have people like that. And not everybody will get you, just like how Job's friends did not understand him. And if there are good leaders, they will guide you and navigate you through those things. And I love when people ask me questions because I want to share from the things that I got to learn from those kind of questions that I've asked before. But at the end of the day, I don't have all the answers. And the leaders and the people that you're asking questions to, they might not have all the answers. The best person to go with all the questions is to God. And maybe, like I said again, you might not get all the answers. But these questions will shape your thinking. It leads you to a place better than where you are at the moment. That's what I believe. And I hope that that's true in your life. So ask questions, not just for the sake of proving yourself right or proving somebody else wrong or just to get answers, because the answers are not going to be satisfying, but knowing God in a deeper way definitely will. So I hope that you ask questions to me or to the people around, more than anybody to God, and let God shape you through this process.